Hello everyone, the ultimate Spectralayers Toolbox. We're going to check out some amazing and mind-blowing audio editing tips. Okay, so the whole idea today is to cover basically an overview of the tools so that we can have a video where we can go to check on my toolbox, all the tools that I basically need to edit. And to begin with, the first thing that I want to do is take a basic overview on how to watch to my content. How do I see and how do I look to the information that Spectralayers is giving me? And I've assumed that basically you can see that we have tools for display on the top, some tools to display on the bottom, and our spectrometer, right? So we can see the spectral view of the signal of the content. We can see the traditional waveform. We can hide it. We can slide it. Just dragging. You can see that I'm just dragging. We can do the 3D thing here. Okay. So if we double click on it, it resets the info. And this is what we get. And I want to start by checking out how to display the content, because it's very important that we can see what we want to edit the way we want to see it, so that we can efficiently edit and select things within Spectralayers. So now I'm going to expand the display settings. And before that, I want to go down here. I can click on this icon on the bottom, on the right bottom, and it will change to composite layers. And this will, if I have several layers, I will see the color of each layer in there. But I can also change to different color that will give me more information than just monochromatic color that we have. So we can work with this one, for example. And we can also, if we do double click in this tool, we can have selected layer view, so that Spectralayers will show me the content from the layers as I select them. Okay. But as it is the best starting point, and I want to go through all of this. This is very, very important. The ones on the top will show the brightness of the minimum or the most or the less relevant transients, like noise and things like that. So this will give me the brightness of that. This will control the brightness of the maximum amplitude transients in here. So you can see I can control the brightness in there. I have an overall brightness that I can control in here. And this is important because if I want to edit just transients, I can just remove a little bit of the background from there. The content is still there, it's just the way I see it, okay? And in this case, we can bring down or up the highest transients, the highest volume dynamics on the content that we have. Then I'm going to skip the FFT for now. We have the opacity of the selection. So if I have the selection, I can choose how I want it to be. Almost none. I like it a little bit transparent as it is. Okay. And then we have the FFT, or fast Fourier transfer function. This is very important, and it's a math calculation that allows to process information in a very efficient way. And that allows us to do calculations within the spectral domain of the frequencies and the transients. This is a very mathematical thing. I'm not a mathematician, so I'm going to explain it from the usage point of view. This is basically for us the FFT on the top, the size. Let me get a little closer in here. So as lower as I go, I'm focusing the processing and the viewing on the transients. And as I go higher, as I am doing right now, I'm focusing on the frequency content. And certain tools will depend on this. You have to check the manual for that. For example, if we're going to do processes like D-River, you want a lower FFT. If you want to do things like ambience match, or I don't know, they have to do more with frequency content, then you'd rather be on the highest tier. What I basically do is I run around the half of it on the middle way, and that serves most processes well. And we have the window. Windows are a part of the math calculation that the FFT has to do. Is kind of a part of the process, and they are called windows. In our case, these windows will allow us to see the content differently. And as you can see, if I change it, I see that it changes the way I perceive or see the content that I have. So I basically use it on the first two, and you will have to go on in depth to understand what an FFT is and the relationship within Spectralayers and the content itself. But it's important for you to know that this does affect the processing that we do. Resolution, basically, and refinement will just allow us to see this content differently, more detailed. As bigger the resolution and refinement, you can see, is actually better for us to edit. And we can lower this a little bit aquí. Let me see. Like this, you can see more content of it. And if I take all that resolution and refinement, you can see this is different approach of how we see it. This resolution and refinement is just ways to see it, as these all numbers are just zooms and things like that. They don't change the content itself, but they do indeed consume more CPU power depending on how you work. I like this way because even with more refinement and more resolution, I basically have more ways of telling what do I have in my session. So this is basically it. I have this zoom thing, so we can do zooming here. We can see if we watch everything from what was my frequency starting point or my frequency ending point, that we can control over here with this slider. Sorry, and you can just track to see what you want to see. This is just zooming tools, and we can reset that, and we can control the spectra, the 3D fin. And again, if you double click here, you reset the 3D. And we have our modules and our channels and our layers, and that's basically everything. Okay, so let's go through this toolbar right here on our left. The ones on the top, they are basically selection tools. These are editing tools that we can change everything within the content selected, and these are just for as reference tools. That's the way I call them. Okay, so the first selection tools are pretty basic. The selector, the times range, we can do that. If I use the I as a key command for that one, so I can change from, let me expand my opacity. So you can see if I change right here, I have the time selection, and if I change it, I can go to frequency selection. I can just select that from here as well. I have a shortcut for that. Okay, and this one here will change whatever we selected. Let me make a square selection which is smaller, and now we can move or transform the selection I have. So I can do things like span, small, things like that, and it will do that for us. Okay, as you can see, that's done. Los videos que estamos. Esta es una pequeña prueba. So it's basically important for certain sound design tools and things like that. Okay, let me just go back for that. So this is the selection tool, the editing tool. We can transform the selection, we can transform the whole thing, and we can select the time or the frequency range in here. Okay, this is the way I have the selections there. Okay, we have the square one and we have the ellipse one, and the elliptical one will display here, and is basically we can basically do selection with it, and we have the adding tool so that we can keep on adding spherical selections, or excluding so that we can do important selection, or merging, or excluding at all. Okay, then we have the polygon, the lasso tool. The lasso tool will create, as we go moving the cursor, a selection, and once we leave, we drag the cursor around, and once we leave the selection, the click of the selection, it will basically create that image, and we can move it around, and then, you know, whatever it is that we want to do. And the select and the lasso, the polygonal lasso, it does the same but with lines. So you can see it's doing lines. If you see that it's making, and once I'm ready to close it, I'm gonna close it in here. I just do double click on it. Okay, so as I go, I make a click and it will follow my selection, and once I do double click, it will close it down. And this is very useful when we have to do small editings. For example, we want to move this around, and so we can, you know, do things like this if we want to remove that or repair that or whatever it is. Okay, and we have the brush that's self-explanatory. Let me put it on selection because it wasn't on the other sense, so we can, you know, basically select what we want, and we can do additive selection like there and stuff like that. And we have you can see the size of it in here. We have an aspect ratio, and we have a hardness, so it can change the way we select. And you have a round brush, we have a square brush. Okay, so basically selecting. We have our magic wand, and the magic wand is very useful. Let me zoom in here. For example, if we want to select these frequencies, I'm going to zoom over here. You can see that we can use by using with additive and the tolerance to the minimum, not on the minimum, but the width very small. We can basically select as we go, and I'm dragging here my selector and just following up on the frequency here, and I can see what it's going to select, so I can choose to click on it, and we can do very detailed selection, for example, in here. Okay, we have transients. We can select transients, we can select frequencies like we were doing just here right now, but this one will follow that frequency we have all the way over there. Okay, so I'm gonna close this. This is it. Okay, so it will follow the frequency we selected, and it will follow the travel that it does. So we can do additive selection, make it very thin, and follow this very detailedly, as you can see, and keep on going. And we can do a very detailed selection here. For example, we want to remove this beep over here, or we want to move the bird over there. Maybe we can do thickness wider, and we can just select those, and we can edit those very quickly. Okay, very useful tool. And this one does harmonics, and harmonics is very self-explanatory, but Rank will tell you if you are on the root or whatever harmonic it is, the thickness, and how many of those you want, and you can basically select them all at once. So it makes it very easier. So I want this to be thinner and make it a new selection, for example. It will follow the frequency, but it also will add the amount of harmonics that we wanted to select. And you can see we can do very detailed editing on the frequency domain with this tool. Let me create an elliptic in here. Excluding, I'm sorry, let me additive, and let me put 0, no fades on it. Okay, so I create this one, and this one I wanted it to have it because this tool creates fades for me, so I start creating fades as I go. Okay, and the other one is the opposite, will close fades as I go. So this is very useful when you're making special selections that you want to do certain fade in one, but not on every part of it, and things like that. So those are the selection tools. Okay, now this one will erase content, and we can make it very hard with a stream attenuation, so it erases everything, or we can do it soft and with very little attenuation, so that you can just erase certain amount of content. Okay, the same applies to the amplifier, which will apply amplitude, and you can see to the certain frequencies or as fine as I want it to be. For example, this transient here, and you can see how it reflects on the waveform. See, and you can decide the hardness and the gain again of how you want it to behave. Okay, so if, for example, let me make it this one. Let me hear
Spectralayers video.
Okay, this is more or less in here. Now let me amplify that one.
Spectralayers video.
See, I can do that. That's not necessarily the best choice, but this one is very important. This one will transfer the content that you select to another layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click here, add a layer, and in this I start using my tool. You see nothing because both layers are active. But if I mute the one I just did, you can see the content that I am selecting is going back to that layer. And this is very useful because sometimes we want to move that content to another layer to edit it exclusively on that part. And if we play it, see both.
For the Spectralayers.
See, I can edit both. I can raise the volume on the layer so you can see.
For the
But the content is still there, it's just that it's in another layer. Okay. This is a stamp tool that will help me basically clone information. Let me go to an empty here. So I press Alt and I may click, and I'm sorry. And you see that I can, let me put very hard and very, okay. On the wrong layer. I'm on the wrong layer. Okay. See, I can preview where I'm stamping and where I'm copying from one side to the other. And I have hardness and ratio and everything that we can, you know, blah, blah, blah. The same rules of everything apply. Okay. And we can clone. This is basically a frequency repair tool that will allow me to create more content. It's like creating new content, and you can drag it and see from one point to another. You can create like ramps from one to another, and the pencil will allow me to write and draw frequencies and transients in there. This one will allow me to create transients, as you can see. And let me make it very heavy. I can create clicks in here, for example, in here. and this one will spray content for me, so I can create like noise and stuff like that. So
Spectralayers video. Spectralayers video.
see, we can create content with those tools. These are all to create content. And we have the markers one. We can put a marker in here or here, make a comment on that. We can create a spectral, for example, box and create a marker in here for that. We have a selected, this tool will allow me to sample information from the window, get the statistics from a region itself. We have the hand to just drag the content around. Obviously we have the zoom, we can just do that. You can see it reflecting here, and we can reset it over here. And if we wanted it, we have the zooming here as well, remember, so we can reset that over there. We have the cube to move the 3D information around, and we can do it over here as well in the corner top, and double click in there to reset it. And the scrub tool, this is very useful, so that we can
Este es un pequeño audio para el video de
scrub
un
and see
pequeño audio
what
para
it
el-
does. Okay, so this is basically it. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so for last, I wanted it to make a selection here and show you the edit menu and the specials that we have in here. The first one I want to do is copy that and copy. I have a blank layer in here. If I solo it, you can tell that it's in blank. And if I do paste special, we can do paste and mix. That will paste that on top of that, paste to a new layer, or paste to the layer below. So let's paste to the layer below now.
Okay, este es un
I did it wrong because I had the selection on the blank side. I want to here. Okay, let's do copy. And now we want to paste the special to the layer below. Okay, the one I had there. So now I can see that the information is right here. Okay, I'm gonna delete this layer, and I'm gonna do another selection over here. And now I want to copy that, edit, paste special to a new layer. And now not only it sends that information, it copies that and pastes it onto a new layer, creating the layer itself. Okay, so that's very useful. And we also have the cut special that will do basically the same things. So cut special, cut to a new layer, cut to the layer below. Let's cut this to a new layer, and you can see now he cut it out of the audio track that we had, or the layer we had, but now it's in here. Okay, so we can edit that, and we can do basically the same. Let me do undo for that one, and the same thing to paste to special. Okay, to copy special and to cut special. Okay, this is very important because it's very useful for us to move things to layers so that we can edit them in safe spaces. For example, I want to copy that and see if this works. I can replace the selection later, so we can do the selection again and things like that. And we can try things over, or because this one requires certain process that doesn't fit the rest of the layer, so that we can do things over that. So that's very important for us to keep in mind. And the fact that we can, for example, let me hear here. Okay, we can remove this very easily. The way to do it, in my case, I'm going to use a simple rectangle. Let me select that, and I select the bird here, and I can do healing. Healing is just the process of fixing that, and I can do it vertically and leave something behind. Okay, we can hear that. Let me undo that. We can heal it horizontally, and we'll probably do a better result. Still sounds there. Or we can do it by directionally, so he can fix things here, and we can remove the bird from there. Okay, so we had this one. This is what we had, and we can simply heal that. and see that we have a key command in here, okay, which is very useful for us to use. Okay, that's command delete. Okay, there it goes. And if we wanted to do this more efficiently, we'll select just that, and then that, and then that, and blah blah blah, and click command delete bidirectionally. Right here again, we have the vertex in here. We can remove it, and you know, that's the whole idea behind that, is that we have control of how to heal things within the frequency range without or the time domain. Okay, so that's important for us to keep in mind, and that was basically the last thing that I wanted to show you, because it's very important for me to keep in mind that we can do processes with layers and move things around, and you know, make experiments with things on other layers, so that we can not risk necessarily the main material, or do processes as we want, so only to certain things that we want to move around. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so that was the idea, to give you just a quick overview of all the tools for editing that we have, especially the fact that we made an overview of how to see things, how to edit and select the things that we had to edit, and also the fact that we know that we can control the information within layers, and that's one of the biggest powers of Spectralayers, obviously. The fact that we can do spectral editing and move things around as we are used to move things to one layer and another, and we can do processes in one without affecting the rest of the content and things like that. That's obviously one of the biggest powers that we have with Spectralayers. So now we have a video that we can refer to once if we ever forget about what we do with a certain tool or how to do that. So hopefully will be a reference tool for you, this video, and I'll see you in the next one. As usual, thanks a lot for watching. Try to click like to the video, that will help us a lot, and see you on the next one.